Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where and when in the world you are tuning in. I am so freaking excited, y'all, to kick off our very first client spotlight interview series with Miss Ashley Cook. Miss Ashley, please introduce yourself. Let us know all about the magic of who you are and what you do, Queen.
Hey, Alante. Oh my gosh, I've been excited about this and ready to just come on and chat with you because I love any time that we get to talk because I know magic always happens with the work you do and how much you are passionate about the different entrepreneurs that you meet. So I always feel like you make me feel like the best entrepreneur in the world. And I know you make other people feel that way too. So I've been really excited about this. I started off my entrepreneur journey as a copywriter and then began transitioning into copy coaching with a little bit of a consulting flair with it. So I focus now on serving impact-driven entrepreneurs to grow their copy or to grow their business with copy that they love. So
Yeah.
I'm all about the words.
Yes. And what I love about you as a copywriter and a copy coach is you have a talent of really capturing the essence of who someone is. I'm not sure of all the technical jargon and all of that, but the brand voice, the business voice, you have a very unique way of capturing all of that matches exactly with who the client is, who the business owner is, what the company, what the business is. So you are really gifted in all of that, Ashley. So I thank you for spending some time and chatting with us today.
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely. So a question for you is, how has your journey been making that transition from being a copywriter into a business owner into what you do today?
So I think, oh my gosh, there's so many different threads that go into the tapestry of being an entrepreneur. And there's the personal development side when you're owning your own business. When you shift from like an employee to the business owner, that's such a mindset shift. I think one of the things that if I look back at what could I have started, like what could I have done better from the beginning? I learned the lessons I needed to learn the way that I needed to learn them. So I trust the journey unfolded the way it needed to. But had I had the hindsight and like started to, make some changes on the front end, one of the challenges that I faced early on was how do you actually set a vision for your company and to set the infrastructure in place from the beginning to help make it more streamlined from the get-go. Because I learned a lot of my own internal inefficiencies, things that my clients were completely unaware of because I shouldered the burden and I shouldered the pressure of trying to keep everything in order, run efficiently. But if you're trying to run things efficiently, but with like inefficient processes, like how it just doesn't work. And so I learned that there's a lot of things that can accelerate entrepreneurial burnout. And I definitely experienced the burnout side. Part of that was the process. Part of that was your own mindset coming in. Like, how do you set a vision for your company? How do you price yourself in a way that reflects the value you're bringing? So there was a lot of there was a steep learning curve those first couple of years especially that first year, getting my wings lifted off.
Yes. And we were just having this conversation, but as an entrepreneur and as someone who's building a business from the ground up and scaling, right? I come from a corporate background, engineering. And so there's a lot of talk about how back-end operations really support corporate management. But as an entrepreneur, as a small business owner, there's not a lot of talks about that, about how you can really fill in this gap and how operations is the glue for allowing you to really embody your full potential as a CEO.
100%.
Yeah. And so my question to you is, before we started working together, before we've gone into our partnership, where were you? What kind of struggles were you kind of dealing with in your business?
That's a great question. So I 1,000% agree with what you're saying. I am a process nerd. I started off, I had 13 years in corporate before starting my entrepreneurial journey. So I knew the value of having processes and sound operations in place, but I'd never built my own business before. So even though I had this knowledge and had a respect and a value and appreciation of operations, I didn't know what that meant. Like, I'd never cast a vision for a company. I was trying to like get myself stood up. I was trying to get my LLC paperwork taken care of and trying to figure out how am I going to position myself to clients and get revenue flowing in, all that stuff. So I I feel like a lot of the operations fell to the back end. And I think some of that's also because I didn't know what I needed. And so I see that with a lot of entrepreneurs, especially those who may not have the business acumen, or they're offering their gifts are in other areas that aren't necessarily business related. They don't know what they don't know. And so they feel the effects of not having ops in place, or processes or anything streamlined. They feel the effects of it, but they don't know the cause of it. So they're feeling frazzled and like what I was feeling. So what I was feeling specifically was getting my business up and going. I had found myself, I had a process, and you and I had a process, Alante. And it extended beyond, I remember when you and I were mapping out my process, and it actually like went further than your tool would allow. Like that's how, just because you have a process doesn't mean it's efficient, doesn't mean it's working well. And that's what I learned was I had 5 different systems I was using to run. I had my contract system, I had my invoicing, I had calendar scheduling, I had all these, like it was 5 different systems I was using for my client work. And on the back end of it, I was managing everything in my inbox and Google Calendar and trying to remember where every client was in the process. And so I was using all this mental energy. I didn't realize how much mental energy I was really like spending on all these systems. So if I had a new client come in, I was spending 1 or 2 hours just getting their proposal put together and sent out. So you end up finding yourself in that spot over time. You don't start off that way, right? I had one system starting out, and then you add another one, and pretty soon you're kind of in a mess and you don't even realize it. And then you don't know how to get out of it.
Oh, that's so good. Yes. Because I can't count how many people I come across that ultimately you have a process. And a lot of entrepreneurs, when we're first starting, like we have our process in our head, we have it on sticky notes, we just kind of write it down, or we know it. But it's one thing to kind of know it and keep it in your head, but it's another to map it out visually and see what's in front of you and see, oh, wow, this is exactly where my time is going. This is what I'm doing. This is duplicated. This is right. There's some things that's not necessarily needed, some things that can be taken away. And so I think awareness is so important as an entrepreneur, as a CEO, and being aware of, number one, what your operations look like, what your systems look like, the kind of tools that you have. And then having like a clear vision, like you said, of knowing where does that end goal look like? How do you want to operate in your day-to-day as a CEO? And then how can we fill in the gaps to make that possible? And I love everything about our work together from the start to the beginning. Like
it's so fun. It was so fun because Alante, I didn't even realize all the things that I was doing to keep my business going and my clients happy and keep myself like sane, all the processes I had created. I was doing 100% of it manually, like 100%. So, the thing that I was so like that I felt whenever you and I started working together, it was so much fun. But the overriding emotion that I felt was I felt a sense of relief. I felt that I was taken care of. I felt that that I was in good hands of someone who could actually help me to solve this mess that I didn't even realize I found myself in. I'd heard about you through Jamila, and we had been in some groups together, and so I had known you through that. But then Jamila had worked with you, and so I was chatting with her, and I knew I'd watched your lives and all, and I was like, I really think I need this, and I really don't think I want to build it myself because I built myself into this mess, and I don't want to try to figure out how to get out of it. But I want some, because the thing that I found was because I was so close to the process, and I was close to my process because I created it and I was in it, and all these systems I was using, I didn't know it was like the fish can't see the water. Sometimes you can't really see where the inefficiencies are because every piece is kind of, that's where having a guide like you to come in to say, okay, let's map this out. Let's figure out where the waste is, where the parts are that, we can get off of your plate, or we can pull out of the process and still maintain the integrity of what you're doing, and make it easier for you so that you're not spending, 1 or 2 hours per client proposal to send out. You're not having to log in across 5 systems and manage everything in your inbox. And we can also fill in the gaps where you might be leaking money.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And Ashley, you are the ultimate dream client to have. And just I salute you because being able to make that decision of trusting someone to come into your business, to look at what's happening and having that trust to, okay, she's an expert or this person is an expert. I trust that they're going to take my business and take it to the next level. It takes a certain type of business owner to get to that point, to be able to delegate something like that, and also a certain type of expert to be able to understand your vision, where you're headed, where you're going to, and how I can best support you in that journey. And I love that you are one of the clients that you prioritize your time. Like, listen, you know that your time is limited and there's only so much you can do. And like I love systems. I love systems. Talk about it all day. I think systems is one of the most sexiest things. And I remember as we started working on your project, right? You were just kind of DMing me. We were showcasing some things in there, and you're like, "Oh my God, I'm so glad that you guys took this over because there was just no way that I could learn it all, do it all, implement it all, streamline it all, and then still work in your genius as well." Because there's so many different moving parts that play a factor into having an ultimate seamless operation.
Yeah, and there's a point that you get to in your entrepreneurial journey where you can do it, but that doesn't mean that you should do it. And just because you can do it doesn't mean that it's going to be done with the level of excellence that you need to be able to help you free up the time so you can step into the leader that you want to become for your company. And I knew that, like, I built my first website. I created all these systems that I found myself using. So like, I knew that I could do it. And I had worked within multiple website platforms. Like I've been in Kajabi and Squarespace and all this stuff. It's not that it wasn't that I didn't believe that I was capable of building it. It wasn't about that. It was, I know that I'm going to frustrate myself trying to get this figured out because it'll take a learning curve because it's a new system, right? But then I only know as much as I'm able to teach myself. I don't actually know the full scope of what Dubsado, can do, for example. I also, I needed y'all to be able to say, okay, well, what do you do when you do? It got me thinking about my own process in ways that I hadn't seen before because I was taking certain parts of it for granted and never would have thought to document that down. And this is me with like a process background saying this too. And so what I loved about working with y'all, like that experience of working with you was that we mapped everything out before y'all ever started getting into it. You mapped out the beginning to end, because I had like a process for one-off projects. I had a process for retainers, for coaching clients, for, what if they weren't a good fit? What if they were a good fit? Like it was all really complicated. And so, first it was understanding what's the current lay of the land and what are you currently doing? Where are all your decision points along the way that help you to serve your client and operate your business? And then, I trusted it to y'all. Like you were like, okay, well, I'm going to look and see where we can streamline, where we can take all these manual actions and decisions you're making off your plate and automate them so that you're not having to think about them anymore. And I'm like, you can do that? And I remember you showed me the color coding of here's all the steps you were doing manually before and the ones you're doing after. And I'm like, doing that? And I remember the first time when y'all handed me the keys back and I went in and I was like, it took me like 15 minutes to send a proposal. Whereas before it took me an hour or two. And that was like 15, 20 minutes with trying to, it's new, right? So it takes a little bit longer. And I was like, did I do something wrong? Like, I think it's sent, but it was
so easy.
So easy. And then I don't have to remember what to do next because you set up the workflow, which workflow is just a fancy way of saying your to-do list. And it keeps track of everything for you, for every client, where you can see where you're at in the process with them, what you need to do next and what's coming down, like what actions you need from them, what actions you need to do. Many of those are automated, so you don't have to do squat. And there was the first time the automated email, an automated step sent out, I was like, did it send? Oh my gosh, it sent. What is it send right? And I just, because it's so easy, I ended up initially second guessing. And then like, not second guessing your work, but second guessing, like, did it actually, like, I don't have to do anything. It just did it. And was beautiful. And, we went from 5 systems down to 2.
Yeah.
We took, I don't know, like 80% of my manual steps and automated them. I went from spending an hour or 2 on proposals to now 15, 20 minutes. Yeah. And it's so surprisingly simple that it's like, is it working? And it is. Every time I ask that, the answer is always yes, it's working. And the amount of time it frees up is beautiful, but the amount of thought it frees up is really where the power is for me. Because now I can take all that thought energy and shift it to, okay, what offers can I create to better serve my clients? How can I, reach out and connect with them better? It actually frees me up to do things that can drive my business and help others grow theirs.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good. You get your time back. You get to increase your that's so good, because my number one thing is, as an entrepreneur, I don't know if you grew up this way, but I grew up thinking that we have to come to this freedom crossroad where we have to choose between financial freedom and time freedom. And they very rarely happen simultaneously. And so I'm such an advocate for being able to enjoy the fruits of your labor, being able to reap the fruits of your labor, because we spend so much, especially as women, we naturally just give so much and empty our cups that we don't yet think about, okay, how can I pour back into myself? How can I still have some time left in the day for me to get back to what I need to do so that the next day I can give my very best? And I love that we were able to help you get some of your time back, because that is what it's all about. And a question that I have for you is, looking back on the first 6 months or the last 6 months of this year, how has your life been since we've partnered together and done all of this streamlining in your system?
It's, from a business side, I'm so glad that I invested in you and the work that we did, invested in my business in the way that I did. I didn't try to cobble it together myself. For me, that was a really big evolution within me as a business owner, was saying, sure, I could do this, but my time is more valuable. And I know that Alante and her team are going to unlock even more time for me and energy so that I can do the things I really enjoy doing, not the things that I have to figure out because, I want to do it all myself. Yeah. And so I think what was so comforting about that is that you took care of the vision and the details in between. And so you kind of have this unicorn. I'm going to answer your question in a minute, but I have to rave about you a little bit longer because this is so important. You took care of, your stuff because you're a process queen, right? But you have the unicorn gift of being able to hone in on the vision and the strategy piece with the business owner, and then execute all the details that help feed into that overarching strategy. So I knew that I was going to be taken care of big picture and little picture, and you have integrity. I knew at any point in the project that I knew exactly what was coming and when it was going to be coming. I could trust the work that you were doing. You were on top of your stuff. You were always quick to answer questions and reply to emails. And what that did for me was it helped me to remember that it's okay to trust. It's okay to trust others to help you with your business. Because I grew up low income where you had to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, right? Yeah. And it was hard work to be able to make it. And so I grew up with a lot of that, observing that as a child. And so that really affected me, that you have to overachieve, you have to high perform, you have to all this stuff. And so to be able to say, you know what, I'm going to because we never had the luxury of having someone do stuff, paying someone to do stuff for us. We had to figure it out ourselves. Yeah. So it was such a big evolution, a turning point for me to say, Alante, I would love for you and your team to come in and just take care of all this for me. Mm-hmm. And what that did from, these past 6 months, there's been, I'm trying to think of how because then I had to transition all my clients kind of to this new way. And so as new clients came in, I found it so much easier to bring them in. It freed up my time. It helped. And when I say it freed up my time, what it did was it created the space for me to start dreaming and thinking of things that I wanted to do differently. Mm-hmm. And so my business has gone through quite an evolution this year. This year has been one for the books. And so
pivot year. Yes.
Yeah. I need things to calm down. down a little bit. But as crazy as like my personal life and how it affected my business and everything kind of has panned out, one thing I never had to worry about was making sure it was things falling through the cracks with my clients. And that's what it gave me. So because you're, as an entrepreneur, the buck stops with you and everything. So if you have, we had a personal crisis that came up this spring and it took me out for a while. And so, I still had client work that I was doing and trying to manage during, a portion of that. And what I found was like, you still have to carry all the balls, like even whenever a personal crisis comes up. And so what our work did, and I love the timing of it, and I've learned to trust the timing of these things, is that the processes and the streamlining and the automation that we created helped me to not have to worry about carrying all these balls and expecting things to fall through, not wanting things to fall through the cracks. It was my fail safe. It was like my net whenever things in my personal life exploded to the point to where it was affecting, I was having to make some tough decisions with my business. But I never once had to worry about the process and the operations. And that to me was it's like, man, how do I do more of that? How do I create, how do I even further optimize and streamline and automate whatever I do in my business? So that if something comes in and just sucker punches you, how do you weather that and keep things going, even if you're temporarily taken out?
Yes. And I think, especially right now, because we're in this recession, sustainability is so key, because that's one of the things that during the last recession, during the pandemic, that's why I had to shut down my first two businesses. I didn't have systems or streamlining or any sustainability in place. And so having this in place allows you to be ultimately unaffected during the next environmental and economic disaster, because at the end of the day, your processes are timeless. They still work for you, and they work even without you being present 100% of the time. And I think as an entrepreneur, having control of our days from sun up to sundown, personal and time freedom, is ultimately the goal of how we have that fulfillment as an entrepreneur, how we really have that happiness as an entrepreneur, and how we can sustain. Because when you have a business that works with you and complements your lifestyle, it's like nothing else can compete with that. Like that's it for a lot of us,
It absolutely. And the stronger your processes are, the better you're able to weather whatever comes your way. And so it's just a lifesaver on so many different levels in so many different ways. It helps me be a better business owner. It helps me to serve my clients better. It helps to take the pressure off whenever I've got to set my business to the side. And I have a hard time setting my business to the side, but things in life happen, they come up that you have to tend to, right? And to know that there are the machinations in place to keep things moving, even if I have to step out for a minute. It's like having the team support around you to keep things going whenever you have to step out. And even though I don't have a VA, because Dubsato's doing it for me right now. It's beautiful. And so there'll be a point, I'm sure, where I want to bring on, a VA, and I have different contractor teams, like my extended family that I work with. But what's beautiful is that, the processes are timeless, and they're built to help you as a business owner, and they're built to help support you even personally in maybe a little bit more of an indirect way. But when you're an entrepreneur, I don't know how you can separate business and personal, because it's all one big thing. So I did not know going into it how much our work together was going to benefit and support me in as holistic of a way as it has.
Wow. That hit me. That was powerful, Ashley. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank y'all for doing it.
Absolutely, Queen. Absolutely. And so I have two more questions for you, and then I'll let you go. My first to last question is, what does your next level, your next season look like as a time-rich CEO? What does that look like?
Great question. So what I'm, and I haven't talked to anyone about this publicly yet. So, I mean, seriously, I haven't. I'm not just saying that as like, ooh, buzz, lean in. This is something that because I posted last week about how there are certain, about burning the business down. And I didn't realize in that I had accidentally created a very intriguing post. And I got lots of text messages and phone calls and emails like, what does that mean? What are you doing? Are you okay? Like, what happened? And I'll be sharing this week kind of what led to that. But there's some of the things that I'm going to be shifting into is something that I'm really excited about and feels really aligned. And it has to, it comes out of my own story of copywriter burnout or trying to find the right fit between a copywriter and their entrepreneur. And so what I'm bringing to the table next is our solutions that are going to help entrepreneurs be able to find and thrive with their copywriter. And because like what you were talking about, where one of the biggest challenges that I see right now with copywriters is, and with entrepreneurs is for when you're a business owner, you have your energy, you have your own way, your own style, your own finesse that you bring to the words that you write. There comes a point in the journey where many entrepreneurs want to shift that writing off to a copywriter, but the copywriter doesn't, like, they're a different person. And there's almost like a little bit of a split identity that the copywriter has to be in order to write effectively as that business owner. They have to write, they have to step in the shoes of the entrepreneur, write in their tone, their style, their energy, and also do it in a way that reaches that entrepreneur's ideal client. And there are tons of copywriters out there. There are, varying levels of skills, very different approaches and styles to copywriting. So what I'm finding is entrepreneurs may not know the top qualities to look for in a copywriter. So they're churning through, or their copy's not performing, or it's not in their voice, or, and they're just spending time and money trying to find the right fit along the way. And so what I'm doing next is bringing solutions to help close that gap and speed up that process of, okay, now you found a right fit. Now, how do you get them writing in your voice like that? So,
yes. Oh my God, this is so timely because this is exactly what I'm going through right now. Like I'm getting ready to start, offboarding because I still do all of my copy, all of my content, all of the copy. I do it. But what you're talking about is exactly what I'm going through. So we'll have a conversation offline about this because I have some questions for you.
Okay, great. Yeah.
So good. So timely. So everyone, entrepreneurs, if you're thinking about onboarding a copywriter and all of that entire process, Ashley Cook is your go-to. So make sure you connect with her. My last question to you, Ashley, is looking back over your journey over the past years and where you are today, is there anything that you would tell that Ashley who was thinking about starting her business, who still had that business on the ground? What is that one piece of advice or one nugget you would tell that Ashley back then?
I would say the sooner that you can make and stand in your powerful decisions, the better. And even if, like, I would tell her, you're going to go through evolutions as an individual, you as a business owner, and your business is going to go through evolutions. And there's not going to be a point where it's all going to be just right. And that's how it's going to be moving forward. That does not mean that you should not make powerful decisions now. That does not mean that you should that you shouldn't invest in people who will help you to, because what you're investing in is quality, speed, all these things. So even if your business evolves and changes and what you've created in that moment has to evolve and change with it, that's good. That's not a bad thing. So I would go back and tell her to stop second guessing, third guessing, fourth guessing, and fifth guessing yourself and make and stand in those powerful decisions faster.
That is so good. That is so good. Oh my gosh. I've enjoyed this conversation, Ashley. I thank you again for making some time to speak with my audience and just for sharing your gems, your story, your knowledge, your insights, all of that, because I know, y'all, if you have been touched by this conversation, if you have learned something just from hearing about Ashley's journey, please let us know in the comments. Ashley, again, thank you so much for your time today, and we'll stay connected.
Girl, you know it. I'm not letting you go.
I'm right here, always rooting your corner, queen, always. Outside of that, everyone, thank you all for tuning in live, catching this on the replay, and I hope to connect with y'all after this one. So stay tuned for the next client spotlight. Have an amazing rest of your Tuesday and week ahead, y'all. Oh, you are so welcome.
I think it's still showing live.